We're doing government and security stories. Hello, it's the day after Christmas, and I'm wearing Christmas gear.
Links with friends.
What a faux pas.
We were confused about the categories for a second, and I had to get those out first, because otherwise I would be mixed up the rest of the time.
I think also we will probably do a live stream.
Yes.
Next week.
For New Year's.
Well, it'll be the day after one.
Yeah.
Or the day. Look for a live stream announcement.
An announcement.
Probably New Year's Day. We're doing New Year's Day, right?
I don't think I have.
New Year's Day is Monday?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there'll be an announcement, but stay tuned. We will probably be trying some crock-pot Pepsi.
Hang on. You know what? Actually, we have a calendar here that we can look at. I think it's actually...
It's Monday.
New Year's Eve is Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, so New Year's Day is Monday.
Yeah. So we do it Monday?
That'd be fine. Yeah. I don't think we have anything going on, so...
And slightly truncated news this week because it is a
Holiday.
time when they're not giving much news. And we're a day early because of Christmas, so...
Everything's just, we had to get everything set up for the editing queue.
Scheduling is hard. And another thing is hard is wringing money out of giant tech giants, even when it's proven that they're wrong. Because as usual, this is a suit that involves almost everyone, because who in America doesn't use Google? What do you think the percentage is of people in America who don't use Google?
It's a small percentage.
Like nothing Google or just the search engine?
Just the search engine.
Probably vanishingly small. Because
So-
even there are certain things even I have to use Google for.
So everybody needs to get a piece of that, and that boils down to a very, very small number.
Google to pay $700 million to U.S. consumers, the states in Play Store settlement. So that's like less than $1 a user.
I think they
About
estimate,
$1 a user.
they think that most people won't, well, like not everybody will sign up for it. So you might get two. Maybe.
$2 a user.
And the
Hot
states,
diggity dog. Merry Christmas.
obviously the legal teams will get paid first. And then the states will get a separate fund just for them. And then the poor plebs can claim their $2.
Scrap out over the last little bit.
I mean, at this rate of inflation, it's basically an interest-free loan. It's like, oh, look, Google borrowed 20 cents from me. Now they're paying me back $2. I guess I broke it even in this transaction.
I think they got more than 20 cents. And it is, that's good news for Google, but some bad news for Apple.
This is also, before you segue, this is also related to the whole App Store thing, which I kind of agree with, but kind of was ham-fistedly handled the worst way possible. So it's kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, but Google is also going to be forced, probably because of the EU, to give up all that. We talked about that last week.
But is it weird that literally the same case with Apple won their case and Google lost it? And that's because Apple just looks good, even though they're hideously evil, whereas Google is more of an apathetic evil.
Maybe Google's not paying their lawyers enough like Apple does.
I mean, it's like the same case. And Apple is Apple doesn't even allow side loading. So how did Apple win and Google lose? Makes no sense.
Well, Apple did lose, and their lawyers might not be getting the bonus that they thought they would coming the holiday season because of this one.
Apple to halt Apple Watch Series 9, Apple Watch Ultra 2 sales, etc. US this week. If you need a story it's like, why are you always hating on Apple? Why is Apple hideously evil? I don't think that Apple is really that evil. They're just competing. You should look at this story and see what they did to this. This is a guy that owns a medical company, and the medical company is also sociopathically capitalist. But what Apple did to that company is another notch in the belt of insane things that Apple has done to other companies.
And impossible to misinterpret, so much that where they might have won their other case, this one, they couldn't find a reason to give it to them. Now, this only affects the Apple Watches that have the oxygen sensor. Their garbage tier level 1 does not have that, so you can still get that. And there's another loophole. If you're FOMOing for an Apple Watch, you're like, oh God, I need it. This only affects sales from apple.com or Apple stores. So if you go to Best Buy and they still have stock, you could get that and put it on eBay and flip it.
And in case you're wondering, what did Apple do to this poor medical company exactly? They hired the original engineers and the executives and some more executives, and then another adjunct team that those people said they needed. Basically everybody but the actual owner.
Wow. There's part of me that too is like, There's no loyalty to the owner at all. What did he do? Like,
They doubled the salary of just about everybody.
I mean, I think it was pretty obvious. They're like, we're paying you a large sum of money to betray these people. And if you don't, we're going to steal it anyway.
And if you think this was a one-off, you should also look at the discovery in the Qualcomm lawsuit, because it was amazing. Apple literally took Qualcomm stuff, gave it to Intel, and said, Intel, can you come up with a 5G modem based on this stolen Qualcomm technology?
who was the last person at the medical company? Like, everybody else has been given their offer. They've gone to Apple, and it's like, it's just you and me, bud. And he's like, ooh.
Yeah, together forever. And he's like signing his paperwork.
Yeah.
I saw some commentary from one of the YouTube lawyers, and he's like, yeah, I looked at this case, and the CEO basically stayed and did this just for catharsis. This would not, like, no lawyer would have let their client do this because it was just throwing money down a black hole. But he won eventually.
Hey, congratulations. I don't know. They didn't even go for damages, did they?
They just wanted him to stop
He
selling
only
it.
wanted the, so like that is really the big FU to Apple. Not that they don't deserve it. That guy was doing God's work.
He literally said, if you want to design your own sensor, it's fine, but let me make sure it's at least as good as ours, or better would be nice. And he was like, no, this is inferior trash.
Well, when you get caught doing garbage like that, you might take a moment and pause and say, maybe a little less evil here as we wind up 2023. Maybe we don't just try to destroy our competitors outright, but not the folks at Apple.
U.S. lawmakers pushed the DOJ to investigate Apple following beeper shutdowns. If you haven't been following, beeper, what is it? Beeper mini, beeper something.
It seems like their only real thing is making your bubbles the right color.
They created a service that would allow Android users to send messages to iMessage users through real Apple devices, or at least using Apple IDs from real Apple devices they had in the data center. And they were selling that service to users. So they were muxing users on real Apple devices, or using real Apple device IDs to enable you to enroll your Android device in an Apple service. Apple took issue with that. And this is a tricky one. Like, I'm not automatically like, they should totally be allowed to do this because it's Apple's service. But the way that Apple captures it is problematic for other reasons. So
Well, it's hard to know who's the winner. The real question I have is, how is that even a viable business model? Who cares enough to do that? But apparently
amazing.
lots of people,
Yeah, it is incredible that we live in a world that's that superficial.
even some of the memos that Apple executives have leaked, they have expressed surprise, like that people care that much about green versus blue. And like the repair stuff's like, we can't let people actually repair stuff. We have to undermine and deliberately not actually give you reasonable right to repair. We have to do it as awful as we can. We're going to build a robot that automatically recycles phones, which was entirely a prop and basically a scam.
But look, think how cool it looks on the show floor.
They basically do the same thing with the green and the blue bubbles. It's like, we want interoperability. No, you don't. We want it to be able to easy to repair. No, you don't. Stop lying.
And even if they ever did, now that they know how valuable it is, they're never going to give that up.
Yeah. Line must go up.
Well, the line has stopped going up in the crypto world, and maybe you could blame some of that on the heavy-handed governments basically stripping away everything that made crypto desirable.
US SEC says no to new crypto rules Coinbase asks the court to review, because Coinbase is understandably confused.
So the government says they are securities, they will be treated as such, and Coinbase is saying, really? Because they're not quite like securities. There's no company here. We're not doing earnings on Bitcoin, so what's going on here? But that's not quite enough for the people in charge, because they must control all aspects of the money in order to maintain their corrupt power.
Warren's surveillance legislation is tailor-made to help big banks. This is Warren's Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act. Man, if only we could use this to ferret out insider trading in Congress.
It won't do that. Instead, it will track all crypto transactions from every exchange and require those exchanges to follow the know your customer rules that banks often have to follow, meaning that in order to take part in a crypto exchange, you will have to give them all of your information, which they will promptly lose in a data breach.
Remember how banks initially were like, oh, you have to report transactions of $600 cash in a transaction. And then it was like, well, what if the transaction is a series of transactions over a year? Let's treat that as a single transaction. Remember that?
Every person I've hired to do any kind of labor for me, they offer me two prices. You can either pay X plus 6%, or you can pay me X in cash. The IRS might have made a bit of a fumble there because I always do the latter there. And the FBI, they put out one of their amazing splash pages. Krista, you can rate
I
this
love them
splash
every
page
time.
where they just cram a billion logos on there and they do their fancy, exciting dance to show you what they've done.
Authorities claim seizure of the notorious ALPHV ransomware gang's dark website leak. But then wait.
They reclaimed it.
Oh,
We
did I
missort
missort
it.
that?
there
It is.
Oh, look at this. If you're following on the one time, there's a terrible missort there.
Ransomware gang unseizes its site and issues new threats after FBI takedown. Oh yeah, we're going after the hospitals.
We're back to the shady guy holding the cursor to the folder. I love
Such
that
a classic. Yeah. The Verge always uses it. I can't blame them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you say, these guys were so upset about this. They're like, you want to play dirty? Fine. All of the rules that we used to follow about not attacking hospitals and nuclear plants and stuff like that, that's off the table. We're back to attacking everything.
Well, that's kind of a bold strategy because you go from like small time financial crime to national security issue. And it's like, that's going to move it to a different department.
They also pointed out that while the FBI thought they had recovered all the keys, they only recovered enough keys to help around 300 customers out of about 5,000, or 300 victims out of about 5,000.
Not quite the win
No.
that they were hoping to get the PR for. Most people probably didn't read the follow-up article, though. That's kind of how the world works these days.
Gosh, how insane is it going to be that just think about all the data and everything that goes into this. Eventually, in like 5 or 6 years, if we just feed a large language model on literally every piece of information that has ever been and will ever be, you can just, it's like, hey, I found an encrypted hard drive from the year 2023, like in 2050 or whatever. It's like, will you, do you have the decryption key for this? And it's like, oh, I don't know. Hang on. Let me look. And it's like, oh, yep, I found it. Here you go. And it decrypts it.
Hopefully, before we get to that point, the AI will buffer overflow and everything will just stop.
I long for the heat death of the universe.
Well, the EU has also been rolling out some year-end warnings of what's to come for these big tech companies. And one thing that some people are pointing out is that all the companies that they're targeting, except for like 2, maybe just 1, is that they're American. And the number of EU big tech companies that are under the same scrutiny, well, that number is 0. So is there a little bit of favoritism going on?
U.S. lawmakers warned Biden to probe EU targeting of tech firms, according to this letter. Now, it wasn't just other EU tech firms. It was also Chinese tech firms. And a couple
Only
of
ByteDance.
And only a couple of Japanese firms as well, which should fall under EU scrutiny, but for some reason they've been excluded. It's weird.
The big one that they left out was Alibaba.
Yeah.
So what's the excuse there?
Jack Ma is being tortured enough. We need to not, draw too much attention.
Let's let him have a good Christmas.
Wherever he is.
And the wheels of justice turn slowly, but they do turn, and they caught this man in their gears, and he is finally done.
Nikola founder Trevor Milton, remember the downhill truck guy, sentenced to 4 years for securities fraud. Seems like he got off light.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems. I mean, like it's not trivial to spend 4 years of your life in jail, but
He'll be in a camp.
yeah,
It won't be that bad for him. I mean, it'll suck, but a very bizarre. I would encourage you to go and listen to his closing statements or his response to the judge about why he did all this. He invoked his mother's cancer and his Native American heritage.
That's so weird.
Like, what does Native American heritage have to do with you scamming people, investors out of their money? But yeah, he did not have a good defense.
whatever tribe he's from is going. It's like, please don't.
We don't need that PR.
Please don't bring us up in this.
And we still have this constant debate. Has Huawei defeated sanctions, or is this all just smoke and mirrors? Are the phones real? Are they performing the way they should? How is it happening? We don't really have solid answers, but we've got a ton of propaganda.
The U.S. doubts the performance and yield of Huawei's advanced chip. Yield meaning how successful they are at producing the thing in the first place, but also what's its actual performance.
But those phones are out there. They could probably get one.
Yeah, order one from AliExpress.
Yeah. But I think that's just a little face saving because the sanctions probably didn't do quite what we expected them to. And again, we have some ghosts of Christmas past, which are coming to haunt our large corporations.
Southwest will pay a $140 million fine for its meltdown during the 2022 holidays. That brings the total cost of that meltdown to about $750 million.
Everybody had problems, but Southwest in particular failed hard during that time. And they estimated that they ruined about 3 million Christmases.
If Southwest is profitable enough to absorb a $1 billion fine or $1 billion loss in a single fiscal year, something ain't right somewhere.
Now, when it comes to the Child Protection Acts, they are generally a bad thing that is really just stripping away everybody's freedoms. The FTC has proposed some rules to further change those. And when I read through these rules, I was expecting to see like draconian surveillance and stuff like that. Instead, they kind of make sense, but I'm left asking myself, why stop at kids here?
That's what I was thinking the whole time I read this.
Like, these seem like solid rules just for everybody.
FTC proposes enhanced protections for kids online. Where do you stand?
Let's just preview a couple of them here. Separate opt-in consent for third-party disclosures. I need that.
I would like that as an adult. Yeah.
Limiting the support for internal operations. So basically, like, you know, when you go and you're clicking through the cookies and it's like, no, we have to have these cookies. They can opt some things into that and be like, no, that's strictly necessary, but they don't tell you why. Now they got to tell you why. Nudging you to stay online. Again,
I would like to not have to do that.
limiting data retention is just a no-brainer for everybody. That makes, if you can limit data retention for kids and still operate normally,
You can do that for everybody.
but it makes sense, right? Tech guidance, increasing accountability for safe harbor, and strengthening data security requirements.
Yeah, that should be.
How do you make the argument that some people don't need that?
Some people, you know, well, they can have a little identity theft.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're over 40. There's no more identity theft protection for you anymore.
On your 18th birthday, you lose all identity
Yeah, it
protection.
doesn't make any sense.
I almost got a glimmer of a reflection of ending surveillance capitalism reading this. They stopped short of anything that could be construed as that. But that would also solve all these problems. It's like, you don't need to make money by doing surveillance.
But it also shows that they're capable of understanding the situation.
Yeah.
And yet they refuse to apply it to everybody. We just choose a protected group and apply it to that. So much of politics does that these days, isn't it? And so much of politics is, I hate to say it, fake and political theater. And that is no more obvious than when these idiots get a hold of AI.
New York City Council member-elect used AI to answer questions. Now, I read the thing and I expected this to be something insane, but this doesn't seem egregious at all. The story seems more egregious than the act.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think that it's important for a New York City Council member to be able to speak English on a level where they can communicate without AI?
I mean, she was communicating without AI in her other questions.
So why did she need it then? Because her excuse was, I'm not good at English.
Well, she's autistic.
You should still be able to communicate. You should still be able to communicate.
Do you think a disease, a mental disability that cripples your communication should be allowed in a job that requires constant communication?
That does make it a little taxing sometimes.
Well, she's going to keep doing it.
Well, it's fine if you have it, but you got to learn to work around it.
And those ghosts just won't stop haunting. Once again, the crimes of the past have come to haunt Rite Aid.
Rite Aid banned from using facial recognition software after falsely identifying shoplifters. The FTC says the company's reckless use of AI humiliated customers. It is wild to me that Rite Aid is suffering more consequences than the Detroit PD.
Yeah.
Remember when this happened at the Detroit PD and they kept arresting the wrong guy over and over again?
I was telling Krista last week, I was watching a body cam YouTube video and the guy wouldn't give him his name. So one of the cops got him in a headlock while another one snapped his picture and ran it through the AI. And they identified him.
Yeah, and they can do that.
It's like, how is that allowed? So Rite Aid, these were all terribly incorrect, and they trained it on grainy photos that you probably couldn't recognize anything. And their excuse was, bro, we haven't done that in like 3 years. I don't even want it. Why are you even bringing this up?
This is like teenage me's worst nightmare. Because I remember back in the day, we would get like there's nothing to do in a little town. So like me and my friends would go to Walmart and you'd just like browse because it was just something to do. And eventually the secret shopper would start to follow you around. It's like, oh, they can't think I'm stealing something even though I'm not.
In this case, they wouldn't just follow you around. They would confront you,
Yeah.
show you the pictures and be like, you have to leave.
But it's like, I didn't steal anything. I live in a small town and there's nothing to do.
Technically, they are allowed to always ask you to leave no matter what. They don't want you there. But
Yeah.
that was a terrible way to go about it. And we have just this year rolled out all these new rules about data breaches and how quickly you have to report them and all that stuff. The government wants to be involved in all of that. And it seems other countries are going to follow that same suit.
China issues draft contingency plan for data security incidents. And if you read this, it seems entirely reasonable, and I'm not really sure why it merited an article in Reuters that seems like something crazy's going on.
Well, they covered it when our government did it.
Yeah.
They don't usually do feel-good China stories, but
It,
maybe that's a good one.
if you lose data on 100 million people, it's like the worst case scenario. Or if you lose data on 10 million people and it's considered sensitive, that is also a worst case scenario alert. Otherwise, there's 3 more gradations of alert that are less severe than the worst one.
There's like yellow, orange, red, and then red number 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, red number 2 is really serious. And we were warned that AI and deep fakes and all this stuff would come into politics as people would release all kinds of fake videos and information and stuff like that. And instead, we're seeing a raft of headlines where the politicians themselves are using AI to further advertise themselves.
Imran Khan deploys AI clone to campaign from behind bars in Pakistan.
He was a former leader, also a former cricket player, I think,
Yeah.
and very popular. His supporters are not welcomed in most of the country, it seems. And any kind of rally or anything like that seems to be met with resistance. They did turn off certain internet services during this broadcast.
Yeah. The way they did this apparently was they got notes from him in prison, and they also disclosed in the thing was like, hey, this was generated with AI because we don't have anything else, but it was made with notes from this guy. But there's a lot of meaning that can be lost in subtlety, and the whole was it Richelieu that was like, give me 5 lines written by the most honest of men, and I'll find something in them for which he'll hang. I don't remember.
Yeah, but I think he approved it
Yeah.
before it happened.
Well,
so.
he's in prison. How much autonomy does he really have for that kind of thing?
He's got the lawyer. He scribbled a note and went through the lawyer. So I don't know if he ever got to see it.
Yeah.
Maybe a transcript.
I wouldn't trust that.
But again, it's a dark. I'm just imagining. So I'm thinking back to like, Obama's campaign, because he was making a lot of sense, saying stuff like, oh, I don't know if the NSA belongs here, and we really don't need all these universal wiretaps, and this not in this thing that we have where we got Section 702. We don't really. That's probably bad. And then he was elected, and then all of that just disappeared. I'm imagining an AI assistant that's whispering sweet nothings on my shoulder, and then once they're elected, it's like, oh wait.
The one thing that makes me, I know nothing about Pakistani politics, but the one thing that gives this guy credit in my vision is how hard the incumbent power is fighting to stop him and all the dirty tricks that they're using. So there must be something there, right? Maybe just his popularity. There's some echoes of our political system there, aren't there?
He's also in his 70s, and I was like, what is it around the world that we can't get someone younger in office?
Yeah, just like somebody who's like, I got just a shred of honesty. Just a little bit.
Well, that probably disqualifies this man.
Certainly a man with an agenda.
But he's up against a giant cabal with an agenda, and I'm afraid I'm probably with him on this one.
X to be investigated for allegedly breaking EU laws on hate speech and fake news.
He had a comment in this article where he was like, maybe telling everybody to go F themselves was a mistake. It's like,
What a great moment.
yeah.
Yeah, I was looking through our back catalog for something, and because I was trying to help the editors find where I did
clip,
something a long time ago, and I got an ad for like one of those fake energy heater things, and it's like, this product, like this is not a real product, this is fake, like this is not a thing. And then that juxtaposed on like, oh, we can't say certain things and like we have to couch things, but it's like we can literally sell products that cannot exist. Like this product violates the laws of thermodynamics, and that's allowed on the platform.
And what is really at stake here? I mean, I hate Elon Musk too, right? I'm with you on that. But what's at stake here is when you make these claims, you must answer the question, who decides what's real and what's fake, and who decides what's hate and what's not hate? And the answer is the European Union. Is that what we want? I know some of you do. And that terrifies me.
Or you have a special version of Twitter that's for the European Union only.
The dream of the internet. Tiny little boxes that can never interact with each other.
I don't think they'd be happy with that. I think they want control. And
see also.
Yeah, that's an excellent lead in, isn't it?
EU targets
adult sites.
Yeah, it's 3 specific ones under new content rules. But one of them was very quick to publish their numbers and say, hey, by your own rules, we are not large enough to fall under this thing. Where do you get the numbers thinking that we are this large? Because here's the numbers, and we aren't large enough to fall under these new content rules.
And then you said, it's not about the size of the boat, it's about the motion of the ocean. So yeah, they want identification. They want the same dream of all politicians right now. They want constant tracking of all online people. And they know that this is a bridge that some people will be willing to cross to get access to it and give up their rights.
I know a lot of the time we don't really offer a solution for protect the children because it's not like it's more complicated than that. You can't distill it down into a sound bite. But if you're under 18, what's the problem with a whitelist or an allow list?
What's the problem with you parenting your own kids?
Well, the minimum level of parenting would be an allow list. Like here's the 50 state allowed websites that you can go to while you're under 18.
The problem is parents are dumb and technology moves so fast. And so every new device that comes out is going to be an opportunity to get around that.
Yeah. And parents is like, no, I don't know if I want you reading that drivel on Wikipedia.
I mean, they're doing it in the libraries, right?
Which is sad.
Independent thought alarm. I really hope that all of this backfires. It wasn't one of the monarchs. They did this with one of the monarchs where they put her through a thing to make her subservient and weak, and that backfired spectacularly.
Oh, Queen Victoria. Her mom put her through like a certain schooling system that was supposed to make her more dependent on the mom and like the ruling council. And it made her so angry that when she became of age and became queen, she was like, no, screw this. I'm doing what I want.
Well, perhaps this kind of thing in society will produce a similar societal result because it's that dumb.
So you're hoping our society comes of age. So far, it hasn't worked out.
Reminder that Queen Victoria did end up marrying the man she loved, which was a plus. But then all of her children started a world war. So,
well, can we fall back on the fact that monarchy is just basically flawed?
yeah.
The divine rule, can we just go back to that and maybe ask some questions about that? And in the UK, we have the most pedantic court case that's ever existed. In this case, the government is like, just shut up and stop. Just put your name on it. And this guy will not accept that answer.
AI cannot be patent inventor, UK Supreme Court rules in landmark case. Although the court basically said this guy is the inventor because he invented the AI to do the thing.
They're like, stop putting the AI's name on it. Put your name on it, and it will belong to you. And he won't take that offer.
And again, once the Barbie picture, the Barbie hands.
What toy is the other hand from?
I don't know. There was another one this week that was just a spray painted silver Barbie. That's a different one.
That elbow joint is not Barbie.
No, it's definitely not.
Some sort of Gundam.
I'm sure somebody in the chat can track it down.
Another interesting side effect of the AI stuff is that we are actually getting a couple of reports from labs that AI has helped them discover new things. I saw a report this week of a new drug. We might have a story on it.
Yeah, I think we do.
Antibiotics.
And also the computer model. Remember LK99, the superconductor that just won't quit? Computer models say that in some narrow scenarios, there may be some pockets of superconductivity. We're trying to figure out what the problem with the computer model is and or reality.
There's a lot of problems with reality.
It's the simulation.
Yeah.
The simulation can't go that far.
It can't reconcile.
Yeah. And UK officials can't reconcile the fact that they've invested in technology that is expected to last a really long time and simply isn't going to.
UK officials caught napping ahead of the 2G and 3G doomsday. Let me translate that headline for you from British, I guess. There's a lot of parking meters and wireless stuff that's 2G or 3G.
I think utility stuff.
Yeah, and smart meters. All of that's going to stop working immediately. And regulators are like, do what now?
And they pointed out, they were like, oh, right, this is going to be sunset, was it like 2027, 2028, or 2033, actually. We got plenty of time. But no, most of them are going out 2024, 2025. One of them is on January 1st.
Yeah.
So literally...
Like a week from now?
Yeah.
Not even a week from the time they see this.
So there's probably going to be some like Y2K style surprises everywhere.
Oh, no, the smart meters can't ticket you.
Oh, tragedy.
They'll just ticket you and be like, you should have worked around this somehow.
There's going to be a story. We're going to have a story where some old lady's heat was shut off for not paying her bill because her smart meter stopped working, and they're going to murder her. Like, she's going to die. She's going to freeze to death.
We'll cover it if that happens.
It's going to be bad. I mean, it's like, this was no one's fault. Well, yeah, it was.
Well, the government of the UK is also trying to cope with record keeping. In the age of digitization, what do you do when you got a whole bunch of papers?
Ministry of Justice plans to destroy historical wills, and it's quote unquote insane, say experts. What do they want? They want to save money by not maintaining them. Well, we can just do what prior generations did and move all the wills to a catacombs to be sealed off and forgotten.
But these guys they're historians.
Yeah,
so.
like there's historical merit to wanting to look at this. Like the language used, the papers, the ink, like all that could be useful to historians in the future.
They said they're going to go through, and if anybody was like a person of note, they will save that one. That's the ultimate blue check mark.
Well, yeah, and the historians pointed out, how will we know who's going to be relevant? Like, what if they do something toward the end of their life and it's like, oh, okay, well, we've already destroyed their records.
Listen, you had your chance to become famous.
Yeah. If you're not a genius by 25, then what's the point?
Also, another thing is who decides. Like, there's going to be one guy who's going through and is like, all right, you make the cut. You think his family will be, like, selected?
Probably.
Oh, there's a lot of unsung heroes there, too. I guarantee you there's at least one person in that data set that did something absolutely amazing, and they're largely unknown for that.
But there's like stuff you can learn even from looking at, like, that's the thing with history is you always have the look at like royalty and celebrities. It's kind of nice having those documents for people who are normal to see how normal life functioned at that time in history. Why would you delete that resource?
Because you want to save a couple grand per month, I guess. Moving on to the security section, I think the biggest story, now we just got like, we'll do a rapid fire. It's just hack after hack after hack. I mean, data loss is a thing that is never going to stop happening. It's going to be worse and worse. But this one was the one that got the most headlines.
Hackers leak game plans in Insomniac games breach.
Now, there were so many headlines as people plucked through this. My favorite one is apparently Sony feels like they're going to lose billions of dollars because of the Activision deal. Like they really... Internally, they seem to believe everything they said in court.
Wow.
And they're like, we don't have anything to compete with this. All of our pillars, as they call them, which are like the IPs that belong to them, are stale and people are tired of them.
Can we make something new? No.
They also pointed out that they're not allowed to have X-Men content until like the 2030s because of some deal. There was a lot of embarrassing stuff in that leak. Doesn't seem, if you're a Sony investor, you might want to take a look at that. And here comes the parade of breaches.
Comcast Xfinity data breach affects over 35 million people. A Citrix vulnerability that they couldn't be bothered to patch because they're too busy making money hand over fist, squeezing their IT department and squeezing their infrastructure team. This was totally avoidable. This should be the corporate death penalty. Like, this was such a bad screw up. There's like, you should break up. It should just be regional ISPs. Like this screw up was so avoidable.
Are we going to do the same thing on the mortgage side of it?
Mr. Cooper hackers stole personal data on 14 million customers. Again, so insanely avoidable. Like, why does this just forgive their mortgages? It's not going to affect our economy any more than other stuff already has.
It might.
I like that picture they picked for that article too, where everyone's like, yay!
We did it. We lost the data. And you might be thinking, well, you could avoid that by not giving those people your business. But some things in life you can't quite avoid.
Delta Dental of California data breach exposed the info of 7 million people. We actually, there's a couple of years ago, somebody will dig this out. We talked about a data breach from one of the major dental software providers because they use the same hard-coded admin password everywhere. And we predicted this would happen and now it has. Took longer than I thought it would.
And here's just a little warning. If you are having fun uploading all of your pictures of your vacation to Dolly and having it make fun new things based on those, you might be giving more than you thought.
Artificial intelligence can find your location in photos, worrying privacy experts. And if you don't believe this is possible, I encourage you to go to a GeoFinder YouTube stream and watch that and be amazed.
GeoGuessr is the name of the game.
Yeah.
And it is very fun, but it's difficult.
And that's just humans doing it.
Yeah.
So they point out in a photo like this, the AI can be like, I recognize that dirt. And it's like, oh, there's a clay content, and I know what that grass is. This must be X place, and it's really good.
This kind of tree is found here. It's like, okay.
The picture in the article they talk about is like, this is a guy, it was like a 20-year-old photo. This guy was on a backpacking trip in Yellowstone, and it was within, I think, 25 or 30 miles of where the photo was taken. Pretty impressive. I'd consider that a win in GeoGuessr if I was that close.
Yeah, but I consider it a loss for privacy.
Yeah.
And we have a new thing to watch out for that probably is going to affect literally everybody who does anything with managing servers or programming.
SSH protects the world's most sensitive networks. It just got a lot weaker. Well, it's a novel man-in-the-middle attack, but it's a novel man-in-the-middle attack for a couple of specific algorithms. If you're already on the ED 25, 215 or whatever, you're fine.
What is the photo in that article? Is that a snapping turtle?
Yeah, because it's called terrapin.
Oh, okay. What an odd picture.
That's a digital turtle, Kristen. He's
He's
traveling.
he's in the tubes.
The internet tubes, yes,
Yeah.
he's traveling. I don't know where the rest of his body, like, how does he get in the
He's
rest of his
squeezed. He
bulk?
can't move.
And here we have just a man who went rogue and was very, very good at what he did, but he still was not able to cover his tracks. Again, think about the crypto regulations. This kind of thing just doesn't fly because everything is surveilled.
Ex-Amazon engineer pleads guilty to hacking crypto exchanges. How did he hack crypto exchanges? By using his access as an Amazon engineer. This is literally the doomsday scenario where, when you ask Amazon's like, is this threat really real? Like, could your employees do this? And they're like, no, there's no way. You now have evidence to say, well, it turns out there is a way.
They may have actually done it.
What's funny is one of these companies, he stole like, I think 2 or 3 million from them. And they were like, oh, wow, you know what? Actually, we're going to give you a bounty. We'll give you 300,000. We won't come after you. Just give it back. And he was like, no, I'm keeping it all. So he could have had 300K
Wow.
and just gone on with his life. But no.
It's never enough.
Yeah, it turns out that it would probably also, like, Amazon could, like, lose their minds about that.
And I try my best to end on a positive note whenever possible. This week is one of the rare weeks where we can.
Google will stop telling law enforcement which users were near a crime. We've covered this a bunch of times, and this is not the win that you think it is. And when I explain why, you'll be sad again. Sorry.
Yeah, because we talked about this last week. It's actually still on the device. Once they dump your device, they still got your location data.
You know who else still has your location data? Your ISP, your wireless provider.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because
And it turns out they're already set up to sell that data. It's just that they costed a lot more than Google.
yeah, you'll get the tower data.
There's no way to escape it, is there?
But at least Google is not actively participating. I would
Yeah.
give them some credit, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Google was
Partial
storing your
credit.
GPS coordinates about every 12 seconds. on
No,
their
no, they're
servers.
still storing it, but they're only storing it on the phone, not on the cloud,
Yeah. So there's no way to get that from the cloud. They have to get it from your device.
which they can. Make no mistake. They can dump your phone trivially, get everything off of it, including that data.
Now, with Google, law enforcement could say, in this bounding box, we need to know everybody. And Google could do it. But with mobile providers, they can only say, we need the phones that pinged these towers. So it's a slightly wider net that you're casting. And you do have to make 3 or 4 requests instead of just the one. Oh, it's so annoying for law enforcement. So
Those poor guys.
geo-querying is still a
What
thing.
a tragedy that
I
is.
hate that for them.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that that is less protected than your VHS rental records. But okay.
Well, crazy is the time in which we live. And tomorrow we'll talk about more of that crazy.
Store.level1text.com.